Don't mind me. Just influencing. Okay. Okay. Hi! Oh my God, thank you so much for coming to see me. Look how many of you there are. Okay, let me do some sort of ladylike situation. I'm wearing shorts, just FYI. I'm wearing bike shorts in case anyone's getting, okay, getting stressed. Don't get stressed. My name's Lindy. I wrote this book, the whole thing, I wrote it. Do you know how long a book is? Ugh. But somehow I did it. And I'm gonna read to you from the book. Let's see, what do I want to say about the book before I read? The title of the book, it's actually like very pertinent right now this week. I don't know if you've been watching the news, but there's a big old witch hunt going on. It's so unfair. It's so unfair. All the president did was a bunch of crimes. And then he confessed to them multiple times, confirmed that he did them. And now everyone's witch hunting him and making him do impeachment, and it's not fair. It is not fair. It's a witch hunt. So the title is about this thing that some men like to do, where, like, for instance, the president, where when they've done something bad and then experience a consequence, they suddenly declare it a witch hunt. Woody Allen did this in defense of Harvey Weinstein, which was bold. A big swing. You could just maybe lay low for a while. Maybe keep your head down. Maybe if you must make a public appearance, have it be something not defending a rapist related. Alleged, I guess, right? I have to say that. He allegedly did crimes. So Woody Allen was like, this is a witch hunt atmosphere. Donald Trump says witch hunt 400 times a day on Twitter. And it predated that. I originally, I started thinking about this strange rhetorical maneuver where men who have historically declared women to be witches and witch hunted them to death. Literally or figuratively, if in more recent years, it's been really popular to call a woman a witch if you want to silence her or discredit her or ridicule her. If you do a Google image search for Hillary Clinton witch, there are 700 million poorly photoshopped images of her with like a hat and a broom and a green face. You probably don't even have to put witch. Probably just Google image search Hillary Clinton. So that was really popular for a long time. And then suddenly this new tactic where now they're witches being hunted by us. So back in 2014 or something, I don't remember which man had done which crime at the time, but the men were out saying that it was a witch hunt. Again, it was not fair, and I pitched at Jezebel an essay. I was like, Jessica, my editor, I was like, Jessica, yo, can I write an essay titled, Fine, Fine, you're right, this is a witch hunt. I'm a witch and I'm hunting you. And Jessica was like, no, absolutely not. No, you may not write a completely bananas, inflammatory, overt threat to hunt and kill men. It's like, I didn't say kill. Which in retrospect also is weird because I didn't say it, they said it. They said I'm a witch, and they said that I'm hunting them, so what really is my crime? And then 5 years passed, 4 or 5 years passed, and our society decayed and disintegrated to the point where I pitched the exact same headline at the New York Times. And my editor there, Rachel, was like, yeah, that seems reasonable, yes. And I wrote that essay. And a lot of people liked it, and a lot of people were mad. So that's sort of the genesis of the title of this book. The witches are coming. It's also, more broadly what this book is about is all of the ways that we deceive ourselves willingly. The ways that America has historically chosen comfortable lies over unflattering or uncomfortable truths, and the ways that that has poisoned us, and in many ways led to the rotten hell that we live in now. But of course, I wrote it, so it's like it's like mostly jokes, like fart jokes, and there's like a whole chapter about Adam Sandler. Like it's filtered through the lens of all the dumb shit that I am obsessed with, and how those things, in my, looking back at sort of the stories that we've been telling ourselves and about each other for the last 50 years and beyond, of course, except not beyond because I don't know anything. I'm not a historian. I'm looking at like what was popular when I was a kid. What did my generation grow up consuming and sort of infusing into our bones? And what are the ways in which that, kind of instilled some really toxic ideas inside of us that we might be experiencing the fallout from now. So, I'm going to read to you from a chapter. Well, I'm going to read you the whole chapter. Get ready. And I think the title says it all. The title of this chapter pretty much sums it up, so I'm not going to give you background or context. The chapter is called Ted Bundy Was Not Charming. Are you high? This chapter is very angry, and sorry in advance to all the men, not all of them, some of them, and also trigger warning, murder constantly. I'm talking about murder throughout. Serial killing, all kinds of bad things. Sorry in advance. This dress, the wrap, the true wrap dress? No. It can't be tamed, the true wrap. You need the faux wrap. Yes, see, everyone knows. Except me, apparently, because okay. For as long as I can remember, I've been terrified that a man was going to sneak into my house and murder me. Actually, convinced might be a more accurate word than terrified, but I don't want to say convinced because I am at the same time totally dismissive of the supernatural and extremely superstitious. I don't think jinxing things is real, but I do not jinx things. Similarly, don't believe in ghosts, extremely afraid of ghosts, to a debilitating degree. Cannot function in my own life due to a thing that I do not believe is real. I do not jinx things. Why risk it? Just a few weeks ago, I was sitting in my hotel lobby in New York City, reading Jason Mantzoukas' Wikipedia entry, and then Jason Mantzoukas walked by me. Who knows what's possible? Plus, if you say things such as, I'm convinced I will get serial killed, and then by coincidence you do get serial killed, it becomes a whole thing in your Dateline. What follows is approximately 1,000 words about Dateline, so I hope all of you watch it obsessively, because get ready for some inside jokes that none of you will like. Okay. Just kidding. It becomes a whole thing in your Dateline. Keith Morrison is like, a beautiful young nymph, haunted by visions of being serial killed. But they were only visions, right? Wrong! It goes on. There's more Keith Morrison impression that I wrote for myself to ruin my own life, and I'm not reading the rest of it. You gotta buy the book if you want the rest of my Keith Morrison impression. It's the end of the tour, and I am off the rails. Just FYI. So tired. Okay. So glad this one's being live streamed. Hello? Okay. 3 asides on Dateline real quick. 1, it was either the husband, the ex-husband, or someone who wanted to fuck her but she turned him down. Cops always wanted to be someone's possible ties to the Russian mob because their brother sold someone named Casimir a boat in 1992, and it is never, ever that. It is never a global human trafficking ring. It is also, this isn't in the book, but FYI, it is also never a satanic cult. Number 2, the only foolproof way to murder your wife is to take her hiking and then very gently hip check her off a cliff. You cannot hip check her too hard because the scientists can tell the trajectory. The scientists always measure. That's really more of a Forensic Files fact, but it comes up in Dateline. It's fine. 3, all Dateline correspondents are my children, but here is my ranking of them in order of how much I love my children. Keith Morrison, obviously. Josh Mankiewicz, Rumpled. Andrea Canning, Dennis Murphy. Okay. No, Dennis is fine. He's just my 4th favorite child. I have to say, it was a little annoying when in January 2019, everyone on Earth suddenly became Ted Bundy experts because of Netflix's 4-part documentary series, Conversations with a Killer, The Ted Bundy Tapes. Excuse me, some of us have had the Wikipedia page list of serial killers by number of victims bookmarked since 2006. And it was only published in 2005. Unrelated, but also a hot read, list of fatal bear attacks in North America by decade. Seriously, it's very good. Someone put some work into that one. It's not just a list, it's a table where they have what kind of bear, and then they have a little synopsis of the bear attack. So, it's amazing. Also horrifying and very sad, very tragic. You might not know this, because everyone's scared of grizzly bears, but little black bears are out there fucking people up all the time. They're so cute. I mean, grizzly bears, very scary, very bad, very big, very hungry. But anyway, all right. What? Where am I? Something just occurred to me. Do men, and this is a real question, maybe they do, I don't know, do men not spend absolutely every moment of their lives obsessed with the possibility of home invasion? Do they sleep soundly all through the night, even if there is a noise? Do they notice if they get home and the porch light is off, but they are certain they turned the porch light on before they left? Do they think about giving up their lovely house, their porch, their garden, for a high-rise apartment because there are fewer points of entry? Do they consider going home from work early because they can't stop wondering if the wooden dowel in the basement window track has somehow come askew? Do they rehearse protocols for which heavy dresser they will shove in front of the bedroom door if they hear someone creaking up the hallway and lie awake at night wondering how thick particle board would need to be to stop bullets? What about particle board, a layer of folded sweaters, and then another piece of particle board with a faux wood grain laminate? How easily and how far can one man shove one door, one fat woman, and one piece of an IKEA bedroom set? Could I survive a jump out of a second-story window? Should I aim for the tree or try to avoid the tree? Do fat people bounce better or hit harder? Straight, white, cisgender men love to file serial killers under some darker subcategory of white male genius. Ooh, BTK installed security systems so he could disarm them later. Isn't that smart? Gary Ridgway eluded the cops for 20 years. Bundy wore a fake cast. Diabolical. No, you dick lickers. They were fucking pathetic, opportunistic incel losers who leveraged the staggering confidence that our society confers upon bare minimum white men in order to get away with obliterating the lives of sexual objects they despised because they could not own them. Genius. Genius. Much like Ada Lovelace, the inventor of the fucking computer. It was interesting to observe the renewed national conversation about Bundy in light of another national obsession incubating at the time, the early stirrings of the 2020 presidential campaign. Watching otherwise rational human beings rhapsodize about Bundy's charm and brilliance while furrowing their brows over Elizabeth Warren's dubious likability creates a particularly American kind of whiplash. The prevailing Bundy narrative has always hammered away at how handsome and charismatic he was, but one would think that in 2019, if Me Too truly had the death grip on pop culture and justice that the whinging class claims it does, someone might have red flagged the canonization of a shitty rapist failure who murdered at least 30 women. Ted Bundy was a mediocre student who no one liked, who failed at everything he ever tried to do except for exploiting women's socialization as caregivers in order to put them into vulnerable situations so he could take away their one single, precious, exquisite life. Elizabeth Warren put herself through Rutgers Law School with a toddler at home, held endowed professorships at the University of Pennsylvania School of Law and Harvard Law School, became perhaps the most influential expert on bankruptcy law in the country, has been a U.S. Senator since 2012, and is now arguably the most principled and policy-driven candidate in the fight to wrest power from a profligate dictator and lead Americans to help save our dying planet. Ugh. Ugh. Off-putting. I hate it when my mommy makes me brush my teeth. Far more likably, Ted Bundy pretended to have a broken arm so he could rape, bludgeon, shoot, and stab women. Things that don't make a white man unlikable. Murdering, stealing everyone's money, grabbing women by the pussy, cult leading, making everyone in your cult commit suicide with you, genocide, being a DJ. Things that do make a woman unlikable. Voice, body, hair, shoes, kids, no kids, sex, no sex, money, no money, inhale, exhale, metabolize food, shed skin cells, use muscles to move bones around, do anything, die. Likability is a con, and we're all falling for it. I watched Netflix and Hulu's dueling documentaries on the social media mega scam Fyre Festival. The same week that I got that Bundy documentary in my craw. And look, I am not saying that Fire Festival CEO Billy McFarland is like a serial killer because he lured hundreds of nubile young influencers to a remote island with no food or shelter and then tooted off on a golden jet ski and left them to be eaten by wild pigs. The lawyer says I have to clarify that he did not literally do that, but he kind of did. I am saying that McFarland is like a serial killer because he is exactly as likable as Ted Bundy, yet somehow I had to watch 2 entire documentaries about how charming and charismatic he is. I'm sorry, is everyone on MDMA? And may I please have some? Billy McFarland is the most obvious bumbling con artist dumbass ever birthed by the universe. He's the guy who never helps on the group project. He's the bully's least memorable henchman. He's that kind of American rich kid who doesn't bother to learn more than one vowel. He looks like the producer spread peanut butter on his tongue and then had his audio dubbed by a frat guy halfway through dying of alcohol poisoning. He seems to be, to put it charitably, barely alive? If we're all made of star stuff, he's from the butt part of the star. Sorry to be a mean bitch, but I am so sick, fucking violently ill, of having to watch good people be conned by smug simpletons who couldn't beat a dog at Candyland. Ted Bundy and Billy McFarland are both more charming than Donald Trump, and that boner pratfalled his way into becoming the most powerful man on earth. That guy? That's the guy that brought us down. One malicious side effect of Americans' bootstrap ethos, itself just a massive grift to empower the snickering rich, is that it conditions people to cheer at deregulation, to beg and plead for the removal of consumer protections. We are literally asking to be conned. We are a smorgasbord for the most unscrupulous and the least deserving. The past few decades have been a tug of war over the benefit of the doubt. Black Lives Matter demands that white America adjust its assumptions about the inherent goodness of cops, about who looks like a criminal and who looks like a fine boy having a bad mental health day. Me Too demands we re-examine what credibility looks like, who gets to define it and mete it out, who gets to stride through the world assuming that they have it. Institutional benefit of the doubt is monstrously powerful. Any lie becomes an incantation conjuring itself into truth. This is the foundation of Donald Trump's power. I'm the least racist person you'll ever meet. I am a handsome law student. The Fire Festival is real and Kendall Jenner will be there. To fund Fire Festival, Billy McFarland called people on the phone and asked for millions of dollars, and people were like, yeah, okay. To not get caught, Ted Bundy just had to exist. Multiple acquaintances reported him based on the police sketch, his brown Volkswagen, and his shitty personality, but cops thought that a handsome, was he? Law student, he got bored and stopped going, couldn't possibly be a murderer. I mean, you guys, the Michael Scott Paper Company was just a supply closet filled with cheese balls, and it got a multi-million-dollar buyout from Dunder Mifflin. Men, would it kill you to say thank you once in a while? There's a famous moment from the Bundy Trial in 1979. A trial in which Bundy disrupted the proceedings repeatedly, with outlandish disrespect to the court and to his victims, when Judge Edward D. Cowart of Dade County, Florida, delivered Bundy's death sentence. Quote, "The court finds that both of these killings were indeed heinous, atrocious, and cruel, and that they were extremely wicked, shockingly evil, vile, and the product of a design to inflict a high degree of pain and utter indifference to human life. This court, independent of, but in agreement with the advisory sentence rendered by the jury, does hereby impose the death penalty upon the defendant Theodore Robert Bundy. It is further ordered that on such scheduled date that you be put to death by a current of electricity sufficient to cause your immediate death, and such current of electricity shall continue to pass through your body until you are dead. Okay, I don't believe in the death penalty, but otherwise, that's pretty good, pretty on point. Great. Cut it, you could just cut it there. Just gavel, we can be done. You know, you did it, right? We're done? No, not done. The judge kept talking. Take care of yourself, young man. I say that to you sincerely. Take care of yourself. It is an utter tragedy for this court to see such a total waste of humanity, I think, as I've experienced in this courtroom. You're a bright young man. You'd have made a good lawyer. How do you, based on what? What do you even, you'd have made a good, based on the murdering or the disrupting court to scream about garbage? Okay, hold on. You're a bright young man, You'd have made a good lawyer, and I would have loved to have you practice in front of me. But you went another way, partner. This is not a satire that I wrote. I don't feel any animosity toward you. Right? Okay, like, I don't think that the justice system should feel animosity toward defendants, you know, especially when we live in a broken system that is racist, you know, that is not actually just, and I don't think that the judge's emotions should necessarily come into the sentencing, but you don't have to specify that you don't feel any animosity. You could have just not said anything about your animosity level. Or best case scenario, maybe a little animosity, just a little toward Ted Bundy, just that one time, maybe that one guy could have a little animosity. No, I don't feel any animosity toward you. I want you to know that. Take care of yourself. Right? To recap, we got women just living life, going to college, having brown hair, swimming, helping the injured. We got Ted Bundy over here, murders 30 women, at least, because his pee-pee scrunched from being a massive shitty failure. And then we got the legal system. Bundy, you are a great man and a great lawyer and could be our greatest president if I'm being honest, but unfortunately I gotta sentence you to death on account of all the murder and whatnot. Sorry, buddy, dang. I wish I could hire you as my son, and heck, you should be doing my job, partner. P.S. You my hero. I wonder how many of the women Bundy murdered would have made good lawyers. I wonder how many female and minority lawyers Judge Cowart mentored in his lifetime. This anecdote is often held up as evidence of Bundy's charisma. Even the judge sentencing him to death was seduced by that smirk, that finger wave. But it is the most blatant, overwhelming evidence we have for the opposite. Men don't need charisma to succeed. It doesn't matter if men are likable, because men are people who do things, who don't have to ask first, whose potential has value even after it is squandered. On the other hand, women. Is there such a thing as a likable woman? Can you think of one? And if she exists, could she be anything but the ultimate manifestation of everything we hate about the water we swim in, everything we're forced to be? Likability in a sexist, racist culture is not objective. It's compulsory femininity, the gender binary, invisible labor, whiteness, smallness, sweetness. It's letting them do it. If someone is universally likable, I don't trust that person. I don't want a candidate that the alt-right likes. I don't want to have anything in common with George Zimmerman. A person's standard of likability is a reflection of his beliefs, and unfortunately in this country, a whole lot of people believe that Donald Trump is not a racist shark in an 8-foot tie who is unqualified for literally every job except lie down. It's like so easy to dunk on Donald Trump. So cheap, just a cheap laugh that I enjoy. And I will take every time. What else do we have, besides dunking? So no, excuse me, we will not play likability anymore. It's an endless runner, a game with no progress and no finish line, that women are expected to chase, that keeps us from doing the real work, accruing the real power. Chasing likability has been one of women's biggest setbacks by design. I don't know that rejecting likability will get us anywhere, but I know that embracing it has gotten us nowhere. Witch is something we call a woman who demands the benefit of the doubt, who speaks the truth, who punctures the con. A witch has power, and power in women isn't likable, it's ugly, cartoonish. But to not assert our power, even if we fail, is to let them do it. This new truth-telling, this witchcraft of ours, by definition cannot be likable. We cannot pander or wait for consensus. The world is too big and complicated and rigged. We are saying the things that people don't like. That's the point. Someone will always pop up to say, "You would be more effective if you were nicer. You would have a more receptive audience if you adjusted your tone. You catch more flies with honey." Yeah, well, I don't want flies. The most likable woman in the world is crawling with fucking flies. Thank you. Right on time. Right on sketch. So now we're gonna Q&A for like 20 minutes. I'm gonna A, all your cues. I think there are roving microphones. Roving? Roaming?
We've got a question
Either, right
here in the front.
I'm Aing you cues.
Hot mic. This may be biting the hand that feeds you, but I feel like a lot of writers I love got gigs at the New York Times and then put out a few pieces and then kind of disappeared. You, Roxanne
Wow,
Gage,
call out
and Mel.
culture, run amok.
And I'm just curious, like, how does it feel like moving onto that stage? And it's amazing. I mean, I love the story you told about getting to do that headline there. Are we going to see more of you in the Times? Like, is that just the book? Is it just circumstances? Talk to me.
Okay. No, thank you. I've been called out hard for not writing my column ever. What happened is that, no, I'm just teasing you. No, it's just like it's literally like, what happened was that Shrill, the TV show, started, and then I had this book due, and I was like, sorry, 2 jobs is plenty for me. Like, I can't possibly do 3 jobs. But then you kind of get used to like not having that weekly deadline, and it's delicious. And so basically, like right now, I am in the thick of convincing myself to start doing my job again. But yeah, I'm not trying to abandon anyone. I love writing those columns. It's like an incredible honor to have that platform. And the only reason I haven't been writing them is a combination of having too much to do and then also laziness. And also like, oh, you know what's really nice right now? Avoiding politics. That's probably actually, if I'm being honest with myself, the biggest barrier, because I'm like, oh god. So like, the thought of engaging with but you gotta, oh, sorry, I touched that microphone. I know I gotta get back to it. Sorry I left you.
Next question on your right.
Hi.
Hi. So we know women are really funny, and you are hilarious. So who makes you laugh?
I mean, Samantha Irby. If you haven't read Samantha Irby's 2 books, and her next one is coming out in 2020, April. She's my favorite writer. She's the funniest person on earth. Have you watched Pen 15? I'm not just plugging my friends and network mates, because it's also on Hulu and my show's on Hulu, but I don't actually even know them. I'm just obsessed with that show. It's so fucking good. What else do I like? Schitt's Creek. Oh! Whew, I'm saving it. Like, I'm like watching like one episode a year to try to like make it never be over. But oh my God, you gotta read everything Sam's ever written. She also, oh my God, Sam Irby also has, okay, I'm not just saying this because also she texted me earlier that she was watching the live stream, which makes no sense. There's no way she hasn't turned it off by now, but if you're here, hi Sam. But she has a email newsletter where she recaps Judge Mathis every day. That is the funniest thing I have ever read in my entire life. I believe it's bitchesgottaeat.substack. Whatever. I don't know. Just Google it. You got it. Okay, what's next? Hi.
Next question's up on your left.
Hi.
Hi.
I was just, so right now in the media, I feel like there are a lot of very black and white issues, like putting kids in cages and not putting kids in cages, or like women are great and we hate women. So it often feels like the two people on both sides of those are unwilling to talk to each other. And I was just wondering if trying to think how to phrase this, how you think progress might be made if those two sides won't talk to each other.
Yeah. I think that talking to each other isn't necessarily the answer. I think that, because like, what is the conversation that I'm gonna have with the pro kids in cages person? You know what it's not something where there's a middle ground. It's not something where we're gonna compromise and find some halfway point where some kids are in cages. I think, obviously I don't know the answer. This is the major sickness in this country is this sort of super entrenched partisanship where, especially since, let's see, how deep do I want to get into this? I could ramble about this forever, but obviously this is a big question. How do we communicate? But what I found to be really effective just in my work is not necessarily talking to the people who are the farthest away from me, who are most entrenched in their bizarro ideology, this like fear-based, really very dark and violent ideology that has been fed to them by Fox News and the Republican Party. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to connect with those people, but there are also a lot of people kind of floating around who I don't pay attention to politics. I don't know. I don't vote. I just want to live my life. And I think that those people are reachable. And I think that a great way to reach people is to have your values and stick to them real hard. To say the same thing over and over and over and over again and hold that line because you really believe in it. I don't think that, I think that the Democratic Party tends to want to anxiously move to the middle and not stand for anything, such as, why do we think it's like a liability to say, yes, as a candidate, I will fight for everyone to have health care. We have to hedge about basic things that obviously people want and need. And I think that at least for me in my career, what's been really effective is to say what I believe and then keep saying it no matter how much abuse is hurled at me, no matter how much people try to shut me up, to hold that line and especially when the other side is so often so disingenuous, that like the party of family values is suddenly the party of grabbing them by the pussy. Like, people tend to get this idea that like politics is all posturing and all spin and all fake, and no one really means what they say, and to just be a person who says what you mean and means what you say, and to stick to that, I think does eventually get people's attention. And I know that because I get emails from people who say, I was a lifelong Republican and I voted for George W. Bush twice, and I started reading your work and you changed my mind. I've gotten like 5 of these emails in the last month, which is bizarre, because I fully agree that I preach to the choir. I was like, are you, like, these emails were shocking to me as well. But it made me feel like, okay, maybe there is something to, you know, if you really, really don't let up on something, I think people start to be like, oh, I wonder if there's something to that, you know? And then the other thing that I do is try to make everything funny and trick people into reading it by making it entertaining. And I think, you know, and then certainly I think you can use your instincts if you have, okay, so Thanksgiving is coming up. If you have certain relatives, we all have to go see our relatives, right? Or we don't have to, but many people will go see their relatives next week. And I kind of think, people are always like, how do I talk to my Trumpy dad? I don't know. I don't know him. But, you know, I think that you can kind of use your instincts, and you kind of know, like, which people are reachable and which people aren't. And don't waste your time on the people who aren't. And one thing the only thing that might be effective on people who you can kind of tell aren't reachable is the only leverage you have is to remove the pleasure of your company. You know, like there's constantly this talk about like, why isn't Ellen allowed to be friends with George W. Bush? I don't care if Ellen is friends with George W. Bush. Ellen can make her own choices, whatever. But for me, I don't have friends who are who like start wars, or like, you know, I'm not friends with like, you know, people who, like, you know that Donald Trump's dad was literally in the KKK? I feel like no one talks about this. Literally in the Klan. I don't have friends that are in the Klan. That's a deal breaker for my friendship. And I know it's more complicated with our dads, but I think that, you know, something that, I don't mean Trump's dad, whatever. I mean like your Trumpy dad. I just am saying, trust your instincts, set boundaries if you feel like you can, and hold the line, you know, and stick to what you believe, because I think people do pay attention and things do sink in eventually. I don't know. If I knew how to fix it, I would. Is the real answer.
Hi, Lindy. I work with teenagers, and they're mainly middle schoolers. And I've watched your show, Shrill, and I also identify as a bigger person, and with the word fat. And oftentimes that comes up in our conversations with teenagers, and sometimes it can be triggering for myself, but I want to really create a space for them that is positive for their bodies, and I think that I only am with them for 4 hours a day, and they have all different types of, you know, after school program or after school like curricular activities and in high school and healthcare that is telling them all these different things, and their parents. I just like am seeking advice on like what you could say to them when they talk about fatness in a negative way or obesity. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I always try. I mean, I have two teenage stepdaughters. They're 16 and 18, and I've been their stepmom since they were 7 and 9. And you know, my husband and I have always just talked to them like they were people and trusted them to be able to sort of that we had sort of equipped them to process the world as best we could, and it seems to have worked out. So I think, you know, I think candor and honesty is always really powerful with kids. They can, I mean, you know, like if you work with kids every day, you know more about kids than I do. But I think, I don't know, it's really hard because, you know, so I talk about being fat around the house, and my daughters are like super into social justice, and they want to like do everything right. They want to use the right terms for everything, and I know that I know that they want to sort of respect the way that I describe myself, but that if, you know, they go to school and talk about, you know, describe fat people as being fat, that could be hurtful to other kids around them at school who haven't been through this, like, you know, who haven't like gone through the discourse. It's really complicated. But I think, you know, the things, I feel like what the problem that I'm having is that this is like summing up my entire body of work. Okay. I mean, the ideas that have been really helpful to me in my life are like, you can't take good care of something that you hate. You know, mental health is part of health. Fat is just a descriptor. It's like tall or blonde. It's not. It only has negative baggage because we give it negative baggage. We assign it negative connotations, and because we're afraid of it, we're afraid to talk about it, and it becomes this sort of scary taboo thing. And so I don't. Again, like I feel like this is not my. I don't know how to, like, I don't know the best way to get through to kids on some of these complicated things, but I think that, you know, what I've done with my kids is model in front of them me living in my body without criticizing myself constantly, without restricting my food, without making negative comments about other people's bodies. And, you know, I think probably just being around you, living in your body in a positive, loving way, has an impact on them. And beyond that, you know, I think that honesty is always a great policy, you know, talking sort of candidly about why, okay, so you have some sort of revulsion to this type of body. Why? Where does that come from? What is the fear that you're reacting to? What is inherently worse about a fat person? You know, I just think that kids are. Is that the rambling bloviator alarm? Sorry. No. What else is there? I don't know. You know, I think that, and also some kids are always going to be mean and shitty, but it's like, it's coming from a place of pain and fear, you know? And I think that you can, just to give them the information, and then they are human beings, and they get to choose what they do with that information. If they want to be cruel, that's their choice. But I think they're lucky to have you if you're in the classroom thinking about this kind of stuff at all.
The next question's on the left.
Hi.
First of all, I want to thank you for writing Shrill from the absolute bottom of my heart.
Thank you.
And I wanted to ask you, in these heinous times that we live in, what gives you hope? What keeps you from just climbing into bed and pulling the covers over your head and not coming out?
Great question. Teens. I love teens so much. I truly find, I mean, it's so cliche, but I find my daughters so inspiring, and their friends, you know, they're like fired up, they're mad, they're not afraid to be political. And when I was their age, I absolutely was. I was like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand politics. I don't know. It's dorky to care. They don't have that, which is just amazing. Probably out of like sad necessity, but well. You know, they're just out there in the streets committing light vandalism in the name of revolution, and I like can't believe how lucky I am. My daughter yelled at the mayor. It was tight. Let's see, what else? I think that another thing that gives me hope is coming out to events like this and being in a room with all of you. And, you know, I've just done 3 weeks of book tour where I've gotten to do this pretty much every night. And everyone at every single stop has been so engaged and so enthusiastic and so energized. And it's really fortifying for me. Maybe that's selfish, but it's thank you for coming. And I don't know, in more practical terms, a thing that I come back to over and over in my head when I'm trying to calm myself down in the middle of the night when I start thinking about climate change is that in Seattle, when I turned 21 in 2003, you could still smoke in bars, and everyone smoked in bars, and going to the bar was a place where you went to like infuse yourself with stank, and then it would last for a week, and I didn't even smoke, and you would just smell like an ashtray all the time, and that was part of bar culture, and it was really fun. And I remember thinking when they proposed the smoking ban that, I mean, not just me, everyone was like, that'll never happen. No one will stand for that. They can try, but no one will obey. You know, people smoke in bars. That's just part of going to the bar. And everyone was mad. And then they passed it. And everyone was mad for like another week. And then everyone forgot. And no one ever talked about it again. And no one ever smoked in a bar ever again. And like this idea that people will live within the parameters presented to them is so reassuring to me. Even though obviously it's a deeply problematic idea because the people making the parameters are often very bad and the parameters that they pick are bad, and we have a lot of work to do to sort of take control of our government in many ways. But you know, I think about the fact that if I saw someone smoking inside of a building, I would call 911 and be like, something's happening. There's like it's the purge, or I don't know. Same thing with the plastic bag ban. In Seattle, we banned plastic grocery bags, which I heard recently is like actually worse, whatever. But let's just, I don't know, I can't deal with everything at once. We banned plastic grocery bags, and everyone was like, no one will ever stand for this. What will happen? Won't someone think of the dog poops? And then they did it, and then I spent 2 months in New York earlier this year where they still have plastic grocery bags, and every time I went to the grocery store, I was like, what are these? Like, I would bring my groceries home and be just like drowning in bags, and like that's how quick you adjust. So humans are very adaptable if we can just like wrench control back. Not even back, not like we were doing great before. And it's also comforting to me that there are many, many other countries on Earth, and maybe they can frickin' make up the difference if we keep just like living in Donald Trump's Monopoly game or whatever. Also, Donald Trump won't be the president forever, which is very cool. Even if he, you know, refuses to leave, eventually we all leave. In some way. I find that comforting, even though both the him leaving and the me leaving. No, just kidding. Happy to be here.
Next question on your right.
Hi.
Hi.
Whoa.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks for coming.
So I've known or seen over the years that you're really multifaceted.
with your skills. So I first got turned on to you with the trolling episode, and then it was a This American Life thing, and then I got really into the essays between you and Dan Savage, which were fucking great. And then also like your show, your book. So I was curious, what's your favorite medium? And then also, with which medium do you think that your point reverberates the loudest? And then as a follow-up to that, are there other mediums that you'd like to explore?
What a nice question, full of compliments. I love that you say multifaceted, because a better descriptor would be random person with no expertise in any area. No, thank you. That This American Life trolling episode is probably my favorite thing that I've ever done. Just because it's like, I mean, not even thanks to my hard work. Like, it was just like an incredible circumstance that I got to pounce on. If you haven't heard it, I interviewed a man who was my internet troll. And what he did to internet troll me was impersonate my dead father on Twitter and like tweet at me that I was fat and he was disappointed in me. So that was cool. Very cool, very normal, very cool. Super well-adjusted guy, having a great life. But we had this kind of like very fascinating, very candid conversation because something happened where in between pretending to be my dead dad on Twitter and us talking on the phone like a year later, he had like gone to therapy and done all of this sort of self-examination, and he really was like really lucid and very kind of he had what's the word I want? Like he just had this kind of fascinating perspective on himself and his dysfunctions. Anyway, you should go listen to it. For him, I mean, like I'm fine, but the interview is wild. Making the TV show is really fun. There's something so fun about collaborating with so many brilliant people because you've got the writer's room, you've got the cast, you've got the art department and the crew, and every single person is totally brilliant and totally dedicated and really writing a book is really solitary, and to get to go work in a big, massive collaboration with hundreds and hundreds of people all doing their best work is really fun and a huge relief also. Like I'm not the only person like on the hook for this. If I fuck up my book, no one saves me. But like when you're collaborating with 300 people, it's fine. Just relax a little bit. But no, I think that writing is definitely writing books and columns is always going to be my core, the core of my work. I think that we reach more people with the TV show because more people will watch a sitcom than will read my angry fat lady polemic about periods or whatever. That's fine. That's to be expected. But in terms of actually transmitting, so we reach more people with the show, but with a column, with a New York Times column, or with a This American Life piece, I get to, no, not, This American Life is more collaborative. I'm going to just stick to columns. With my columns, I get to put sort of with laser precision exactly the message that I want out into the world. And I'm really lucky to have that platform and to have the sort of institutional backing to get it out to readers. And I think that's always, like I said, that's the core of my work. And in terms of other mediums, kind of want to, as you might be able to tell, I really like blabbing in front of a crowd. So obviously, like, I'm sure I'll have a podcast. Everyone else has one. I should get to have one. I'm like starting to think about podcasting. Kind of want to do a one-woman show. Good to know that you would some of you would come see me again. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, hopefully we get to keep making the TV show. I'm going to keep writing books. The pile of of jobs will never, well, no, I don't know. It could go away. You could all stop buying things, and that's fine within your rights. But if I can, I'm going to keep making books and TV shows. And hope, yeah. Thanks. What time is it?
I think we have time for
8:09.
a couple more questions.
Okay, 2 more questions? Is that what you said?
The next one's over here. Maybe
Hi.
3 more. Does that sound
3
okay?
more questions. Love it. I'll talk less. I'll be faster.
Hi, thank you. So the way you have found your voice is so spectacular, and so for those of us who are more than twice your age, absolutely gives us hope. And may every young woman follow you, watch you, listen to you, and learn from you. So thank you so much. It is just stunning and visual and exciting and thought-provoking. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Congratulations on surviving your book tour. I know how hard it can be. So what has surprised you along the way? What has, you just didn't see it coming, you didn't think it was going to happen, a question that just blew you out of the water, something that just really made you stop in your tracks?
Oh, well, like I said, it's been really incredible and like very, very emotionally fortifying to do this book tour. Even though book tour is really hard, it's really lonely. Not like the old days where they send like an entourage. I guess they used to send like an entourage of publicists with you. Just me in the Marriott, alone, eating peanut M&Ms. So that part is hard. But for Shrill, I did a tour, and I toured bookstores, and this tour, I'm touring theaters, which is like, shocking to me, and very touching. And it's really, a lot of what this book is about is how kind of isolating this cultural and political moment is, how we are all kind of just being blasted with this fire hose of nonsense and chaos every day by design, and how it can really make people feel helpless and feel alone. And what I wanted to do with this book was maybe make people feel a little bit less alone and laugh a little bit and feel galvanized to keep going. And this book tour has done that for me, and that's been really, really special. I have to say that my favorite question of the tour, I can't remember what city it was in. Don't know. What city was it in? Oh, it was in Frederick, Maryland, which is a small town like an hour outside of DC. And a woman raised her hand and she said, I'm really sorry to bring this up because I know it's going to be a really difficult question. It's going to be hard for you to talk about. And I just want to apologize. But I have to ask you this. And then she was like, Guy Fieri conceives of Flavortown as a real physical place. And there's a mayor of Flavortown. There are citizens of Flavortown. And I was wondering if you were to be a denizen of Flavortown, what would your job be? Like, I've never been so seen by a question. I mean, what a beautiful question. And what I said was, I mean, it's hard. This was off the cuff. I really would have needed weeks to think about this, but what I said off the cuff is that I would like to be like the Tony Hale character on Veep. I would like to follow the mayor of Flavortown around with a clipboard and be like, that's that nacho that you complimented last month. You know what I mean? Be like deputy mayor of Flavortown. But I don't know. Don't hold me to that because, again, I need more time. And then someone else asked me to rank my favorite Dorito flavors. Oh my God, see, really, like, you gotta, I don't know. I know that we're all, I don't know. I should have something more dignified. But those were genuinely my two favorite questions. Spicy sweet chili, sorry, it's good. Spicy sweet chili, and then what's fascinating about Doritos is that you actually can't rank nacho cheese or Cool Ranch because they're like yin and yang. They're like, sometimes you need one and sometimes you need the other, and there's no separating the two, like they are one. And then last place is every other flavor. Are there other, what? Spicy nacho? Sometimes there's like buffalo ranch. I don't know. Plain? Have you seen that? Which I hate. Like, I resent the existence of plain Doritos, which is weird, because it's just a tortilla chip. Other brands of which I would happily buy and eat with salsa. But a fucking plain Dorito, are you kidding me? Okay, 2 more questions? Or should we end on Doritos? Do we already have, okay, we have one already. Yes, hello.
Next question on your right. Hello, that was very funny, and I did not have time to formulate my question in a thoughtful way because I was so distracted.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you for that apology, for making eye contact with me right now. This is so exciting. So something that I find very valuable, well, something interesting is that we have a lot of problematic male comedians, right, historically, and something that they hate to do is recognize something that they've done wrong and adapt and change, and it's okay to adapt and change, right? And something I found really admirable is formerly problematic comics like Sarah Silverman and Chelsea Handler really recognizing past mistakes and dramatically changing their comedy and speaking to that. And that has been really moving and inspiring to me as a person because I am not good at that. And so for example, your answer about sticking to your values earlier resonates so much with me because I know that I'm right about everything. And for the history of my familiarity with you, you have been so principled and had such great convictions that I think that you have always also been right about everything, but maybe not. And something that would be helpful for me, and maybe other people, I guess, is if there's an example or a story that you could share about a conviction that you've changed or some value that you've realized that needed to change, be it with the times or some other lesson that you've learned and what that was like.
Yeah, totally. When I say stick to your values, I mean your values that you formed by being a sort of thoughtful, teachable, permeable person who listens to voices outside of your own experience. You know what I mean? Obviously, probably don't cling to the worldview into which you were indoctrinated as a child. I'm talking about no, you're totally right. It's so much more complicated than that because obviously we're all in progress and we all make mistakes. I feel confident that I can stand firm as an anti-children in cages person. When you find those things that you're pretty sure this is the solid one, I'm talking about those things. But I also think it's hugely important for all of us to be open, especially white people, including white women, to be open to the reality, and I'm talking about myself, as a white woman, to be open to the reality that, and I actually can't see you, I don't know if I'm talking to a white person, so I don't mean to include you in white people. I'm just saying, because all I can see is a bright light. But what I'm talking, it's really important for all of us, and within that, especially white people who have a lot of privilege and power, to constantly be aware of the fact that that you don't know everything, that your assumptions and your instincts are not default correct, and that there is in fact so much of the world that you don't understand, so many perspectives that you don't understand, and that your view is skewed by social conditioning, by the sort of dysfunctional, racist, transphobic sexist world that we live in, system that we live in, and to always be, again, permeable and teachable, and not just willing but eager to hold yourself accountable. Like, even just in a selfish way with my work, I want, for example, Shrill, the television show, to not be one of those shows that in 20 years some snotty cultural critic like me watches it and writes, doesn't hold up, I don't want that. I want to be a person who put that kind of thought into my work to make sure that this is something that people will be able to watch 50 years from now, and it won't have like horribly aged because it's full of regressive trash. So let's see. I mean, so like I would not recommend going and reading like my early work in the newspaper in 2005 when I was 23 years old. I don't know why anyone would give a 23-year-old a platform in a published newspaper and let them write whatever they want. Because like at that time, I was like a comedy obsessive, and comedy at the time was very edgy, and everyone was trying to like say something outrageous. And it's funny because it's ironic, and what I really mean is the opposite. You know what I mean? Like it was this, like, I mean, like, okay, so here's an example, because you asked for an example. Like the first thing I ever wrote that like went viral, that in many ways launched my career, was a review. I was a film critic in my early career. It was a review of Sex and the City 2. That is a perfect example of this, because it is very funny, and probably 50% of it is deeply problematic shit that I would never write now, that I do not stand behind, that is misogynist and gross and violent. There's a rape joke in it. I mean, it's just like me. It was me trying to be bad, and like, I can, look at me. I'm bad and I'm edgy and I can say whatever I want. And it's so gross. And it's exactly that thing where now that piece of writing that I worked really hard on, that has a lot of great jokes in it, is now lost to me. It's lost to history. It does not stand, it doesn't hold up, and all that work is lost. And when we talk about comedy, it's like bizarre to me that people voluntarily want to age, they want their work to age and die, and become obsolete. You could choose to be a person who listens and learns and updates your material and maybe thinks a few steps ahead. How is this going to impact people? What are people going to say about this on Twitter? Which is not, you don't want to go too far down that road and start, sort of stifling your own art based on your projections of what people might say on Twitter. But it's just, I think just like 99% of the time, being told that something that you wrote is fucked up is a gift, or something that you said or something that you did, because it's an opportunity to do better and to be someone who people feel safe around, who people want to, whose work they want to support. I mean, it seems so obvious. I don't know. Does that answer your question? I got lost somewhere. But no, I think that it's important to remember that we're all learning as we go and figuring it out. And the more privilege and the more power you have, the more responsibility you have to be open all the time. Be open and to be listening and to be willing to take some hits. Like, my God, if you're like a white person living a comfortable life in America, the least you could do is not get, pissy when someone's like, oh man, white people. When a person of color is like, ugh, white people, at it again. You should be like, yeah, we are always doing that. I'm gonna talk to us. Literally the least you can do is not throw a fit because someone rightfully criticized your deeply entrenched fucking racist privilege. No, I don't even deserve it. It's fine. What's up? We got one more?
The last question's right in the front.
I can't see you. Oh, you're right in the front. I can see you. Hi.
Hi. I was just wondering if you knew what Dan Savage thought of the John Cameron Mitchell character on the show Shrill.
Okay, I don't. Okay. People always want to know this. I don't know. He probably hasn't watched it, is my suspicion. I have not heard from him. I was very nervous about this. So if you don't know this background, on my TV show Shrill, which is based on my memoir Shrill, so a big part of the memoir, or like there's a chapter in the memoir where I have this conflict with my boss at the time, Dan Savage, who's a famous sex columnist and writer and activist. And this was a long time ago, like 10 years ago. Dan was like very upset about the obese. And he couldn't believe it that we were always eating hot dogs and needing medical care, using our insurance that we pay for. He would write these sort of critical blog posts about the obesity epidemic, and I was like, eventually I was like, sir, I work for you, and we're friends, and I sit 3 desks away from you, and I am your employee, and I'm fat, and could you not? And then we had this whole conflict. And what I ended up doing was like writing. I sort of went rogue, and I wrote like an angry manifesto, and I put it on the blog I don't want to say without permission. I didn't need permission. We all just had open posting privileges. Sorry. So anyway, we dramatized this sort of series of events in Shrill the show. Fictionalized the heck out of it. I swear. The basic structure is the same, but just like the main character in Shrill, Annie is not literally me because she is written by a team of writers, and as soon as you have actors involved, they bring all kinds of their own personality to the character, and John Cameron Mitchell plays the sort of boss figure who is, yes, technically based on Dan Savage, but very far removed. So I was nervous about this, that Dan was going to be mad at me. First, I was nervous he was going to be mad at me for writing about it in the book. And then I ran into him on the street in Portland, and like a year after the book came out, and I was like, "Are you mad at me?" And he was like, "No, shut up. Congratulations." And then I didn't see him again for a long time. And then eventually we made the show, and everyone was like, "What's Dan going to think? Is Dan mad?" And I was like, "I don't know." But I don't know, sorry we had you portrayed by a hilarious, lovable movie star in our TV show. And people constantly were asking me, and I was like, it's not Dan, so it doesn't matter. It's a fictional character that we made up. Don't worry about it. But I was nervous to I didn't want him to be mad. And then I was sort of scared because Seattle's not very big. We both still live in Seattle. We have a lot of friends in common. It's not out of the question that I might run into him. And I was nervous. But then we premiered Shrill at South by Southwest in Austin in March of this year. And I got on the plane to fly to Austin, and Dan was in the seat in front of me on the plane, also going to South by Southwest for some other thing. And I was like, oh, great, well, let's rip this Band-Aid off. So then he hadn't watched the show. He said he wasn't upset, and it was the same as with the book. He was like, no, congratulations, good job. And then we had a nice chat, and then haven't seen him. So I don't know. Sorry, that was kind of an anticlimactic story. I don't know if he ever watched it. I don't know. Would you be mad? It's fine. It's fine. If anything, it's flattering, right? He's not the villain. He's just someone that she really respects, with whom she has a conflict. And stay tuned for season 2, which premieres January 24th. to find out what happens next. Are we done? That was it, right? Let's end on my plug. Watch Shrill Season 2 on Hulu, January 24th. No, thank you all so much for coming. I talked way longer than I was supposed to. I'm so sorry, but I'm so grateful to all of you for staying. And please come see me in the signing line. And this was one of my favorite stops of the whole tour. I had such a great time. You were a great audience. Thank you.